Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the day two of Framework Discovery live streams. My name is Arjun. I've been a multidisciplinary designer for the past 14 years and working with almost from Fortune 50 to startups and many other companies in between. And Framework Discovery Streams is our effort to really bring a wealth of knowledge and empower, especially the designers, those who are into the web stuff, those who want to get into the web design and web development, to empower them to actually build high quality interactive websites super fast using this visual builder called Framer. And welcome back to the day two. And we'll be starting the session in just a bit. So in the previous live stream, we have covered pretty much in terms of what Framer is about, where does Framer sit in the world of no-code, and we've also seen the possibilities of what you can build in terms of the websites, in terms of high-quality interactive websites, especially in Framer, with examples of what we have done so far and what other Framer experts have been building. Some of the popular examples like Dribble site and DocuSign, those kind of websites, stellar websites that are otherwise not possible to build uh, in terms of using any other tool. So with day two, we are going into a little bit more into the building towards the framework stuff. And we will also explore, especially the aspects of how to build beyond just the standard layouts, how to build beyond just the templates. So yeah, that's what's coming up. And let me put up the screen. All right. In the previous live stream, we have covered the context, what's possible, and building in framework. We will delve a little bit more into the building with framework part today. But before doing that, some of you have asked what is the plan for the next few live streams. So while we have put out a very good plan together, which covers a lot of important questions that people ask me around Framer and how to get started with Framer and most important aspects of Framer that you should know. So that's what I have kind of interspersed along with some of the Q&A sessions that we'll be having. So if you're joining newly, just go ahead and type in any of the questions that you have around Framer and we will talk about them at the end of the stream. So day two, we are on right now. Day three covers simple effects, custom interactions, along with a few examples. Every time I discuss about a few things, I will definitely bring examples so you can relate to what I'm talking about and how they can be applied in real world scenarios. And day four talks about the CMS aspects. Day five, responsiveness, my favorite topic. And day six, around how to use a combination of Figma and Framer, because these both tools are very popular in the world of web design, and how you can leverage Figma for an even faster and much more richer web design, and then port it to Framer and build the website in Framer. So there are two aspects to it. One is where you imagine, you iterate the website, you go through the whole process of it, and then once you're finalized with the kind of website that you want, you bring it onto Framer and you build the exact structure that you have finalized. So that's where Framer shines, and we are going to talk about Framer site maintenance as well a little bit. And day seven, we are going to talk about some of the roadblocks when you're learning and picking up Framer, and Framer discovery and Framer workshop as well. So yeah, with that, I hope you all have a good understanding of where we are right now. Let's get started with today's session. All right. Let me just press the screen. So one of the questions that people do have is how do I really look into the standard layouts, and how do I build those standard layouts fast? The standardized layouts come from standardized patterns and standardized components, which work very well in terms of usability. So people usually do not have any trouble going through them, navigating through them, because they are tried and tested methods of how people read their reading patterns and things like that. So a lot of web designs that you see out there are built out of these standard patterns. And how do you really build standard patterns like them, which are applied across pages like this? This is one of the sites that we have built for Finverse, which uses quite a bit of standard patterns. Of course, there's a bit of customization over here, taking them beyond just the standard part, but the code, where they anchor, is on the standard layouts. So the top to bottom, the left right kind of a orientation, these are the things that we're talking about, the tab interactions. So these kind of sites are usually using all of these standard patterns. Some of the other websites which are more popular, what I would love to show is the slider kind of a pattern when you enter into a website. The best practices change according to the times that we are living in. However, the goodness of the timeless patterns still remains. So these are some of the examples that are there. And let's go back onto Framer and see how you can start building such kind of layouts easily. This time a little bit in a much more paced out manner. Okay. All right, so here we are. First thing first, when you are starting out with Framer, continuing from the previous live stream where we have discussed about how when you are in any of the Framer file, you are presented with a blank screen, basically with an empty page. If you go ahead and click on the new page here, you will be landing onto an empty page which has a single resolution and a breakpoint. And from here, you start building your layout. The first most important thing of building layouts is to use existing preset patterns that are there, preset components that are already available from the insert panel here. And you can see the standard layouts in terms of pages, in terms of sections, navigation patterns, and menus. These are some of the common things that people use to build out a website to make it complete. And beyond this, you have CMS related patterns as well. Right now, we don't have any CMS items that are added to this, but when you do add them, they come and appear here. And then we have some of the creative elements, if we have to say, in terms of forms, interactive elements. We have media-based elements if you want to embed a YouTube video or an image or a GIF or even a Spotify, MP3, audio, all of those things. We have icon sets, interactive, sliders. We have social icons, and then some of the more utilitarian components. So all of these components help you kickstart your design very well. So we've seen that in the last session, but this session, I want to show you something different, which is about how do you leverage components that are done elsewhere. So the preset components, or as what we are saying, are the ones that are set already within Framer. But when we are talking about components that are made by other Framer builders, including us, we are talking about components in the first place. So what is a component? It's one of the biggest features of Framer, where it allows you to build interactivity and also build reusable elements and reusable sections or particular components that you can go ahead and use over and over and over again in your site, even with variations, that will help you build your site very fast. So how do we make a component? In a very simple way, if you are building anything, for example, let us say we have a button here. Right now, all of these buttons are arranged a certain way. We will get into the specificities of arrangement a little later. But the idea is you can right-click and start creating a component right from here. What happens when you create a component is it asks for a name. Right now, I'm just giving it a name, primary button. And you create it, and right away, you are taken into a component edit mode. So you can go back using this breadcrumb and double click on the component again to go back into the editing mode. So right here in the component edit mode, which is different from where you actually build your web pages, we have some interesting things here happening, because usually we use components for building interactive experiences. Some of the things that we usually build out are variants, which means there are slight variations of the original components. And then we have states, which are on the top to bottom orientation, and on the left to right orientation we have variants. Top to bottom we have states, which means, for example, if you want to add a new hover state, let us say, you can click on it and say hover. It will duplicate this particular component, but specifically for editing the properties to make it into a hover state. So if we go ahead and, let us say, pick the fill color into something different, something darker, let us say, then we can go ahead, preview this right from here, and see how the hover state is working. It's as simple as that. So this begins your journey into the interactive components. There's a lot more that you can do in terms of variants and how you can switch between variants on scroll and things like that, contextually appropriate. So those are the things that you can do. Right now, what we will do is we'll try and see how to bring components that are there from an external source and bring it into our page and see how we can customize them and make this page a little better. So the kind of use case that I have today is, if I want to have, let us say, a simple navigation for this particular page that is built in the previous live stream. If you want to do that, most important is for me to choose what type of components are available. From Nocoloco, our own agency that we have, let me show you that as well. All right. So from Nocoloco, we go into the framer, nocoloco.co/framer, and you will end up with a lot of options here. What I'm interested in is Framer Flex. We have Framer Drops, which are more interactive components. But what we are going to look into is Framer Flex, which is customizable Framer component packs, which is, if you want to get into navigation bar, let's say, and if you want to choose a specific navigation bar, if you have a component that you can select. Usually, getting components from external sources means you only get one or two variants. But what we are trying to build is build an exhaustive set of variants for a single component, for example, navigation bar, and you can see all the variants here and pick and choose the variant that you want, which is tried and tested, usability tested as well, in terms of how it functions and how people are able to access it. And you can specifically choose, let us say, centered navigation bar, and you can test out how this functions across the major device breakpoints that are there. And you can interact with it. This is actually the live component that is there. You can interact with it. And if you want, you can download this whole pack for free. Likewise, we have other packs as well, where, for example, we have pricing pack, different variations, which are very common, very standardized variants. Usually, we look out for these kind of patterns when we are building websites. And we have packs which are around FAQs. Rest of the packs are, you may have to pay for it a little bit. But the idea is, let us say we want to take the navigation bar and into our page and build it right there and customize. And switch. All right. I have, once you have a copy of this particular pack, you will be getting all the variants to copy, not just one. And you will be able to pick and choose exactly what component you want to copy. And right now they are arranged within layers, so you don't have to worry about misplacing them here. Let us say I want this particular variant, and you can see that whenever you convert a section or a group of bunch of elements into a component, you will see that notated using a purple color instead of the default blue color, which is used for any other selection on Framework. Now, you can copy it right from here, and you can paste it inside the header or intro, a more appropriate way to call it. I'm just going to rearrange this to appear on the top and not at the bottom of this entire stack. And we'll look into what stacks are and how to really build this stack kind of a layout. But right now, I'm interested in customizing this one. And right now, you see that there's a lot of space around it. That's happening because at the topmost parent layer, we have an inner spacing, in other words, padding being applied, which is 100 pixels from all the sides. You can also customize exactly which side you want the spacing by toggling between all sides and individual sides. And right from here, you have, right now, I just want to set 0, 0, except for the bottom. I just want to leave that as it is. Now I have my nav bar, which is sticking to the top, and I want to customize this, basically adding this logo here. Now to do that, I can just have this copy of this logo. I double click this component, and here what's happening is whenever we bring any components from external sources, it will ask, Framer will ask you to unlink the instance, or which will give you full freedom to edit this, or unlink and replace all in terms of making a local component. So what we want to do right now is make a local component and do edits on top of that rather than just unlinking the instance. So I'm going to hit unlink and replace all, which is going to make a local copy of the component, which is different from what is here. So if you make any of these changes here, it won't be reflected here because both of them are disconnected right now. So now we have the component edit mode, as we have seen earlier, and we have quite a few variations here. We have the primary variant, we have tablet variant, we have mobile variant. Within mobile, we have mobile, which is an intermediary transitory phase and an open state. So you can also design states in terms of variants as well. We can talk about that a little bit later. But what we want to do right now is just customize this. So a simple way to customize this is to replace or delete the items that you don't want or modify the things. So what we will do here is, right now there is a background of white that is being applied. I don't want the white color background, so let me just remove that for now. And I also don't want the shadows to come up, so I'll remove that. So you will see that the entire navigation is right now transparent. And here, I'm just going to, instead of using this particular logo, I'm going to select the parent container, which is kind of highlighting this entire box that's occupying this width. And I'm going to paste the logo that I have just copied. And now I can just go ahead and delete this logo and just arrange this. I'll just rename this by double clicking it, saying logo. All right, now I just want to have a few links, no secondary navigation per se, or nested navigation. So I'm going to delete this. I'm going to also delete these parts. So I can go ahead and edit. I can say features. And I can talk about, let us say, testimonials, because that's one of the sections that we have added. So clicking on them can take us and navigate us to those appropriate sections on the page. And here, I'm going to say sign up for now. And let us say updates, follow updates. Updates. Okay. And as I replace this by double clicking and renaming them, you will see that their styling is being disconnected. But you can always find, if you want to link this particular thing, on the right hand side panel, you have an ability to link to a specific page or specific section within a page. And you can do that right from here and assign a style for it. And you can edit the style to see what is the default color, and when you hover on this particular menu item, what is the color that has to appear, and if it's the current page, what is the styling that is there. So right now I'm just going to remove any of these defaults. I'm not going to link them right now, but let's see how far it has come across. So almost there, but we are not able to see these labels because they are black. So let me make them also into white and also convert them into the custom font that we have chosen from Google Fonts. So we have PP serif, and we can turn this into white. And as you can see, Framer understands some common CSS color names. So I can just type in white and should be able to pick it up and apply that. So there we go, a simple component. Right now we can either delete this or we can just hide it. I click hide. So in case we want to have that kind of a orientation of logo, we can always bring it back. So this is a very simple way of how you can edit this component. You can customize this in terms of how it appears across other breakpoints as well. Right now, the padding values that I have set, because I have already overridden these. So one of the important things to know with Framer across the breakpoints is whenever you make any of the changes in the primary breakpoint, all those changes are usually cascaded onto the other breakpoints from left to right, or from the high resolution to the low resolution. In other words, if you want to get even higher than this, then this becomes the primary, and it will cascade from here onto even higher resolutions. So we have the primary breakpoint and resolution always denoted by primary, as you can see here on the left-hand side panel. And any changes that you make here in terms of, let us say we are going to hide this here, for example, it hides everywhere else. So these kind of changes permeate across the breakpoints. But in case you have overridden any of the properties, for example, here I'm just going to set this to fill the available width, and let us say I'm also going to change the spacing a little bit to 80. And these kind of changes are overrides, as you can see with the blue color on the field. So any field that has no overrides that are done specifically for this breakpoint, they are default. They are inherited from the primary breakpoint, and those you want to edit are already shown in blue. And we have likewise on the phone. We can go ahead, and if you want to reset these overrides, you can always do so by clicking here. Reset overrides. It sets back to what I have set on the primary breakpoint. And right here, I'll just set this to, let us say, 40. And I can also adjust these things. Just set this up. Okay. Set this to 600. Set this to 320. I'm just locking the proportion, so accordingly, as per the value that I've entered, it will automatically set the height as well. So now I can go ahead and test each of these resolutions to see how they perform right from here, from the preview bar. Works very well. So far, so good. Header. Likewise for the tablet. You can also resize right from here to check how it translates between higher and lower breakpoints. There we go. And when we reach the mobile, the same links that we have added here stack up from top to bottom, and you can see them without making any changes. This is how fast you can use external components and build a page very, very fast. And you can build standard layouts like this way beyond what you have in terms of insert panel, all these standard sections and patterns and components. You can get it from elsewhere as well. And I'd like to take an opportunity to share another person's contribution to the world of Framer. Do that. All right. So we have something called segment UI, and this entire library of resources, UI kits, and components for exclusively for Framework have been built by Nabeel, one of our own. In terms of the fellow product builder, you can check it out in terms of extensive libraries that are there. Thank you so much, Nabeel, for adding all of these things for builders to take use of. And these are the things that you can use to build many of the sites very, very quickly. And all of these sites that I have shown you as examples have these standard layouts. So how about we take some of these layouts and start building them and see how we can go beyond just a templatized layouts or beyond just standard layouts and see how it happens. So one of the sites that I want to take as inspiration just to showcase how these layouts can happen is Mathieu Triay, and we have Melike, we have Diana, some of the portfolios like this, and the Moxie website. I've taken specific patterns from some of these websites, and we'll see how to build some of these layouts from scratch. So we understand a lot more important aspects of how to build from scratch in Framework instead of building with components. And all of these sites go way beyond just the standard layouts. And these are the kind of layouts that you can actually build, including the interactions in Framework. Probably this would require an external integration in terms of having a three-dimensional object. Likewise, we have something from Runway ML, AI-based company which produces a lot of tools, especially around video making. And here there's a very interesting pattern, which is a tab pattern. That's something that we can try and see how to make all of these things probably tomorrow in the next live stream. But today we are just concerned about layouts. So let's start here. Right? And so we are here. We have understood how to bring a simple component, external component, and make use of them. Keep in mind the concept of components, as it will. We are going to revisit it again and again to build much more rich interactive experiences. Right now, we have these three sites as examples to see how we can mimic layouts like this in a fully responsive way. So we'll just take these simple layouts and see how to build it from scratch. So I'm going to use something called Framer Canvas. So whenever you're creating a new Framer file, you're presented with, by default, you're presented with web canvas or web pages in other way. And we have canvas pages, web pages and canvas pages. Both are slightly different in the way they work. Essentially, your canvas pages, especially if you're a designer, you'll be very familiar with it because Figma operates on this same kind of a modality, where canvas pages are basically infinite space, having infinite space where you can go ahead and do simple zoom in, zoom out. If you're used to even whiteboarding applications like Miro, you have FigJam and things like that, they also operate on the same thing, where the creator tools have evolved from a simple bounded way of working to a boundless way of working, where you can start adding elements onto the page and you can keep, growing your thought process in terms of how you're iterating, how you're adding these elements and making different variations of it and things like that. And you will generally not run out of the space. And this will help you flow very freely. Your thoughts keep flowing very freely when you're working on it. So this kind of a canvas is something that we are all very used to usually as designers, especially. And when you are coming from a canvas like this, which is a free flow canvas, I'd like to put it as, onto something like a web canvas, there are slight differences in the way you approach it. So let's start understanding this by doing. So what we can do to replicate this particular layout is, first thing first, you can go ahead and draw a simple frame. So you start your layout by just using a container, a top level container, within which you are putting all of these elements. You can do so by going ahead and pressing F key on your keyboard, or you can go ahead and use layout and frame right from here. And what a frame does is, on the right hand side, we have many different resolutions, preset resolutions that you can take advantage of and start building the layout for this. So right now, I'm just going to take something that is very standard, 1440 by 900. So clicking on it will put a new empty frame, as you can see. And frame has quite a few benefits that are there, as you will notice. We are usually used to having these elements in a free floating manner in a canvas like this, but design tools especially have something as a conceptually way to group all of these elements together and move them together. Especially in Framer, we don't have the concept of groups. Instead, we have the concept of frames. Basically, it works the same way, just with an added advantages. We'll discover what those advantages are. Some of the things I can give as an outline are, you can go ahead and choose a stack layout in terms of how you want the inner items to be ordered, structured in a very logical manner. And you can choose an ability to add code overrides to it and specific styles, which you can add in terms of blending, filters. And you can also change the screen resolution right from here. If you want to test this particular layout across different things and see how the responsiveness is working, you can shift that as well. And you have an ability to, of course, ability to export is there, and a few more things we will see along the way. So that's what a frame is. And right here, let me just put it. We can start bringing the elements first, and then we can start customizing it. So we have two text objects right now. If you see, one text object is something that is a very big, bold title that is there. And then we have a very long paragraph, which has a lot of mentions and a lot of links to different aspects of what this person has done. And that goes from just below the title all the way to the end of the page. So two text objects. So how do you pick text in Framer? So right from here, we have seen the insert panel. We have also seen how to start with a simple frame, an empty frame, without even going any further. We can also choose to add an image right from this menu or a video. But right now, we need a text object. Once we pick the text object, we can go here and click on this particular frame. And as you notice, because Framer and Figma and all of these smart builder tools do a lot of background heavy lifting for you in terms of where they are positioning these layers for you. So as you can see, right now the cursor is blinking on my canvas. But on the left-hand side layers panel, you will see that nicely nested within this particular frame, which I have done already on the canvas. So these are the kind of things, that simple things that they take care of, and a lot more things that I'd love to show, where it will allow you to just proceed very faster without fiddling with how your layers are structured and how your ability to move between different groups and things like that. So now we have a simple name. Let us say, instead of Mathieu, I'll just write my name for now. Or let's just write Mathieu. All right. So right now I'm just going to choose something as a simple font, Victory. You can go ahead, pick the font from the right-hand side properties panel, and it will give you an ability to pick fonts, which are free fonts, Google fonts, and free fonts from Indian Type Foundry as well. And if you have any of the fonts that are defaults installed on your system, those also will show up here. But if you want any custom font to be installed or used on your page, then you have to upload them separately. So right from this panel. So right now we are just going to choose Victory, and we will just size it up just to match it very closely. Let us say for now, I'm just guessing it. 160, there we go. And as you position them, one of the other things that you can notice is this dotted line that comes up. And that is something, what's happening here is you are putting all of these elements in a very free floating position. It's a free position. It's a specific position. And hence, on the right-hand side properties panel, you will see that position being very specific and set to absolute. Absolute position means you have very specific way where you are kind of placing this thing within this particular frame. And as you move from one side to the other side, you will see these dotted lines coming up, because essentially what Framer is trying to do is pin this particular element to the top so that it doesn't move. Even if you go ahead and resize this frame, it does not change in terms of exactly where it is placed, especially closer to the top edge. Think of it more like snapping, how the magnets snap to each other. So basically, this is kind of magnetized to the top, and you will see the exact spacing from the top that is there, which is 84 pixel. Right now, I don't want to use this here. I don't want to customize it right now. But let me put the second important text object that is there. So what I can do is I can choose the text and start writing it. So as you can see, Framer has given the same size as what you have set earlier. You can set it back again. So this is usually useful when you are trying to create text objects that are of the same kind. So it helps you there. But in case you want to change it, you have to change it back again. So I'm just guessing that this is 20. 20 seems just about right. And here we have simple text object, but let me just actually copy this whole content right from there, from the web page, and bring it back here. Just need to paste it. Just a second. There we go. So no formatting, just plain text. And right now this text is going way beyond the boundaries of this frame. So what we can do simply is we can zoom out on this canvas and try and see where the corner is. If it's too long, what we can do is just come over here on the top, and you can see the width and the height of this particular text object. Right now it is set to auto, which means automatically it will fit as long as the text is. And likewise, it will fit the height automatically to the height of these characters. And you can change both of them if you want. So let us say if you want to set it to 200, this entire box, the text object box, will expand to that area. And let us say the width is something like 200. Again, it will bring it back. So these are the things that you can customize. What I'd like to do here in this context is just set the height to fit the content, but expand the width. Now that I have an ability to select this edge within the frame, I can go ahead and use manual controls to resize them. So if you're used to simple tools like Word and all of that, these are the controls that may be very familiar to you in terms of how you can resize them, how you can even rotate them. So when you just hover just outside of any of these corners, you should be able to just rotate them as well. So these are the kind of things that are available. So right here, I'm just setting this to a width that kind of matches the width of this entire text. But right now, I just have a very basic, very rudimentary layout here, which is not yet made into responsiveness nor is customized. So what we can do now is just take this further, take a copy of this. So you can do that using Command D, or you can also copy and you can paste it. It will paste right next to it. Both of them are ways to do it. And we can start customizing this a little bit. So let's go ahead and set this background to black. And we'll set both of these text objects to white. So you can do multi-select in Framer and set this to white. And of course, I can spend a lot of time in terms of linking this exactly what it is, but we are going to just see just for the sake of how to build the layout right now, and we can do the deeper level of customization later. So this is there as a simple thing, but to make this into a proper responsive site, what we have to understand is the concept of stacks. So that's the most important thing here. So as you can see, within this frame, I have this particular title and this paragraph, which are both placed in a very specific way, in a very free-flowing way. There's no order or structure or rule that defines that this has to come according to the screen resolution. So the reason we are trying to make something responsive is because we don't want to constrain the position that we have set in the same way across all the resolutions, because we know that whenever we are designing websites, they are being viewed on different devices and different resolutions. So to cater to them, to be very responsive to the kind of device environment that is there, we have to respect the constraints that are there and see how to proceed from there. To do that, what we can do is, instead of using a very specific absolute position which does not change across resolution, which means even on a smaller resolution this will appear very big, which is not what we want. We want it to nicely respond to the screen resolution and adapt and make change in the properties in terms of it being smaller or bigger and things like that. So to do that, I'm going to select both of them and say right click, add stack. You can also add a frame to it, which again adds a free-flowing frame. But what we really need right now is adding a stack. So because these two are grouped together, they always belong together, they always have to appear together, they have to be positioned together. The space between them should not ideally change because they need to be read together. So for that, we are doing this. And once you add the stack, you have an ability to customize the width and height of this. But what's most important is, on the right hand side property, you will see the new property open up, which is stack related properties. So what you can do with this stack related properties is, let us set some of these things straight, which is the height is not something that we want to be fixed within this box. So we are going to instead say fit the content. So what it does is, it is going to fit the frame to the content, only the space that is occupied by the content, and it will not go beyond that. So the moment we give any specific value, you will see that it just goes beyond, as you can see. But we don't want that. Wherever, if we choose to change the content later on, we want accordingly the entire frame to readjust. So this is a goodness. This is where the responsiveness starts. And we can likewise customize the width as well. Right now, there's a very specific width that is being set. You can set it to a fixed width if you want it, but even better, if you want to make it more responsive to the overall screen, then you can set it in percentages as well, and accordingly it will readjust. So let us say we are just setting this to 80% or something that matches the width of this, 68%. Let's leave it there. And as you can see, as I change the percentage, it kind of changes the width accordingly and calculates the percentage according to the parent frame that is there, which is set to 1440. So within 1440, 68% is what it is occupying. And that's what we want. We want it to be responsive like this. And right from here, we can see how we can change the direction. Before we do that, we will also go into the individual objects and see how they are. So with these objects, essentially, if it's a paragraph, naturally you will see the width of it set to 1FR. Don't worry about the unit here, but the idea is to set it to fill. We have multiple properties to use here, but what we are trying to see is how to set it to fill in such a way that it fills the available area within this container. So we can set that right from inside, and we can proceed inside out or outside in. What I usually recommend is building your layout outside in, but we are just building from scratch, so we are just using a simple method. We will set this also to fill. So as you can see, as and when it reaches the boundaries of this stack, this container, which is set to 68%, the text will reflow onto the next line. So because the boundaries are stopping here. So that's what fill does, essentially. And if you want to change it right from here, you can change it. It doesn't have to. So let me set it to 70%. That's there. And now you can work your way outwards in terms of how this entire thing is also set. So right now we have a stack, but this stack is still set onto absolute position. We can change this as well by pinning it to the top and things like that. But if we want this also to be responsive, the overall screen also to be responsive, then we can add the layout properties. So instead of adding a stack, because we don't have elements, we have the elements already contained within the frame, we can use the layout properties applied on top of this frame already. So what this does is, you have a free floating frame, it will convert that into a rule-based layout, essentially. So with a rule-based layout, what you have is an ability to set the direction. Right now, we want everything that we add into this page to flow from top to bottom. So we have that set already. Usually, Framer understands your intentions in terms of how you have placed the elements and give those properties appropriately. But you can always go ahead and change it if you want. Right now, we'll just leave it at that. The first thing is the direction. Within the direction, if you want to specify exactly where it should be positioned, you can do that using the distribute property. So you can set it to center, you can set it to end. As you can see, it's changing. The rest of the three properties that are there are more important, especially when you are having individual elements that are being laid out within a fixed area. But within this context, what applies to us is centering this entire stack or a group of text objects. Now I'm just going to call this as content or just name. And there we go. Right now we can go ahead and test how this is working by just resizing the screen. Almost there. You can also compare between your previous iteration and this iteration and see how the responsiveness is working. As you can see, the fill property is not set here. Everything is fixed and everything is set to a very absolute position. That's why it's not changing. And that's why you usually see any of the websites that you're building right from scratch. If you're a newbie at it, it will start breaking at different breakpoints. That's because it's not yet set to responsiveness. So what we can do simply is to see how this is working. Testing it. There we go. I'll just undo that and set it to 1440 by 900. Now it's time to take it live. Something as simple as this. We can take it from here. And as you can see, Canvas page allows you to simply iterate it very quickly and make different variations. And once you're thorough with it, once you are sure that this is exactly what you want to take live, you can take this, go into the web page. As you can see, we are going from Canvas page to the web page. By default, it's naming as home. And we'll select the default resolution that's given to us and paste it. Once you paste it, you will see that there are two things that are happening here. As you paste, right now this is a free frame. There are no layout properties that are being added here. But once you paste it, you will see the layout properties being automatically added because you are starting to build the website. That's what Framer understands, and it automatically gives you the layout properties. So what you can do here is basically you can set this to, let us say, the height of the viewport. What a viewport height means is, especially if you have seen if you're seeing the websites in a browser window, which is kind of sized at a particular resolution and things like that, your actual laptop resolution is different from the resolution at which you usually see the site. So that resolution within your browser window, within which you see the site, is nothing but your viewport. And essentially, Framer gives us an opportunity to set especially the height related properties to viewport height, because we don't want to go beyond that. We don't want any unnecessary scrolls to happen. And on this, we already have on the top level, which is called desktop, we have the height set to fit content, which means as much as the content is, that much is what is the height of it. So now we'll just customize this a little bit more by selecting the main and setting this to, let us say, 80%, something that comes in one line, as long as it just comes in one line. just a little bit more. So now we have it almost there. We can go ahead and we will call this as actually name, and I'm just going to call this as content. So right now we have it for desktop. You can actually start publishing it, but even better if you want to go ahead and add a simple breakpoint. By default, Framework gives you 3 different extremes of devices to which you can add the layout, which is tablet, and you can go ahead, click the plus icon and add the phone resolution. And as you can see, a lot of things are automatically responsive, as you have already noticed, even in the Canvas page. But you can start customizing them. They won't automatically size exactly the way you want to, because there are only a few properties that you have set. Beyond that, you have to go ahead and customize. So right now, I don't want this font to be too big for this resolution. So I'm just going to come to the font size. Make sure that you are in the tablet resolution and you are selecting this one. You can double click and select. If you want to select it very quickly, you can hold Command or Control on your keyboard and select exactly the item that you want underneath your cursor. So once you select that, let us say I'm just setting this to 80, too small. Just going to adjust this. You can use your arrow keys on your keyboard to just adjust this in increments. So I'm just going to set it at 108, and this one as well, something that is 18, a little smaller. And likewise, I can select the one on the phone, which is too big right now. I can set this to, let us say, 60. Not able to see it. That's because we have centered the layout and it's all actually following the same thing. But when it comes to phone, we want to change the way this behaves, because we don't want it to be centering the whole thing. We want it to go from the start. So now we have it from the start. If you want to add space on the top, because there's no space that is there to center it, so we are literally starting from the top edge. So if you want to add the spacing around, you can go ahead and add the spacing using the padding value right in the main container, so that it contains, it kind of spaces the things right there. So let us say I'm just adding 20 pixel for now. If you want to add specific spacing to the top, let us say I want to add 80 or 60, you can do that, leaving the rest of them as 20. And as you can see, even though you have set it to 84%, it will also add the padding value, because these are absolute values that you are trying to give and within which it will start doing that. If you don't want them, if you want this entire content to respect the percentage value, then you can go ahead here and remove these things. So only the top spacing I have given, probably even the bottom spacing, which is the same. And there we go. So right here, we are setting, instead of using the height as 100 VH, we will set it to fit content, because we want the entire content to be fit instead of using the viewport of the phone, which is very small. So we want this entire thing to be displayed and scrollable. And for that reason, we are setting this to fit. So now you can go ahead and simply publish this page and see your result. There we go. Let me just, oops. Let me share that link. All right. Those of you who want to check out the link on the live page, you can do so. Let me share what's happening at my end. We are almost at the end of the stream. Huh? Okay, here we go. So here's the site, what we have built, and it uses the same specific values that we have given in terms of percentages and others to that. And we can go ahead and test this out. this has something called responsive design mode. If you're using Mac and Safari, you can go ahead into the develop menu and see responsive design mode right here. And this allows you to just test this responsiveness, not on the framework, but on actual URL that you have here. So this is an actual URL you're testing out on. And as you can see, it's nicely responsive all the way from the widest to the narrow. So that's about how you can start building some simple responsive sites. I hope this has been helpful to you. Let me showcase some of the other things that you can do with this. So this is one of the sites that you can also replicate in terms of understanding how you can use the layout, a unique layout, which is not the things that you will find as a standard pattern and things like that out there. So these are the things which Framer shines at in terms of building beyond just the templates. So that's where Framer differentiates itself from other kind of tools which are heavily template based and standard layouts and things like that. And we have another layout here. If you had time, I would have covered one more layout for now, but you get the point. The idea is to just use the same steps over and over again in terms of how you set the responsiveness and how you stack them one next to the other and things like that. Probably in the next live stream, we can start building another layout and then get onto the effects and things like that. And you can build multiple layouts like this. The next live stream, we have something like this as well in terms of effects. Some very specific parts of chits taken. You can see how they work out. So I hope this has been helpful to you. Okay. If you have any questions, probably we can spend the next few minutes until we wrap this up. Meanwhile, those who are wanting to learn at a much slower pace and a much more appropriate pace in terms of picking all of these concepts up from Framer, you can actually go ahead. I have a workshop coming up next month, and that is something, as you can see, I hope you are able to see it on the screen. You can go ahead and scan the QR code on that side. So that's the workshop. Basically, it's a weekend workshop, a format where you will spend the Saturday and Sunday, just 6 hours, and you will be able to understand each and every aspect of Framer in terms of the foundation that will take you from a novice to a professional builder, especially if you're serious of picking up a Framer as a tool and venture your way into web building career, then this will be very, very useful for you. So I hope that's been helpful for you so far. Any questions? If you have, keep them coming. I'd like to answer them for you. Thank you, Ashwin. Thank you so much for joining in. Anyone who's joining in for today's live stream, thank you so much for spending your valuable time. I really hope that this has been helpful in getting you up to speed in tinkering with new tools that are out there in the market now and leverage the power of them. Okay. If there are no questions, then we can start wrapping it for today, and we'll see you in the next live stream with much more important aspects that allow you to build much more interactive sites. Thank you so much, people.